Hello everybody. So unfortunate news for those who are following the series as it is released. This season will unfortunately be taking a mid-season break, a hiatus if you will. Just a bit too much stuff going on in my life right now. That sounds super depressing, but it's not. It's school, stuff like that. No biggie. The mid-season break probably gonna be 2 weeks, hopefully, until I get the episodes up and running again. The thing is, there were a few changes I wanted to make to the season, some rewrites I wanted to get done as I released these first 7 episodes. Unfortunately, that didn't happen thanks to aforementioned things getting in my way. So, I'm hopefully going to take some time, finish up this season writing-wise so that it's as cohesive a narrative as it can be. I have lots of things planned during the hiatus. It's just a hiatus from design. I'll still be doing other stuff for my channel in the meantime, so don't freak out. Anyway, but also during the break, I have something super awesome for design related, so get super prepared for that. I'm really pleased with it. It's a fun thing. So anyway, just letting you guys know about that. So that's why there won't be a new episode coming out for a little bit. Like I said, hopefully just 2 weeks so I can get these rewrites really solidified, and then I'll begin again with voice actors and getting all this stuff in line. Good lord, the series is a lot of work. Too many all-nighters on this dang thing. Whew. Anyway, that being said, thanks so much everyone for supporting me, like you always do. You're killer. Love you all to death. Have a fantastic evening, or morning, or whatever it is you are currently having. Have a better one of those. That's my new catchphrase now, I guess. Oh, look at me. Alright. Goodbye. Okay, here I am sitting in a room, talking to myself. Facility Arc. Together, I echoed, finding myself mouthing the word silently as well, looking down at the weapon in my hand, and then back to the journal under her bed. The journal with information about every development on the study of left hands since the facility was founded. Could we really do this? I still didn't know if I could believe Mari's ranting about alternate timelines and failed futures, but surely with her help, and enough planning, at the very least, I could survive this chance. The viewing room was cold and dim. Several figures huddled, looking up at a large television display showing an even darker room. In the margins, only 2 numbers glared forwards side by side, 76 and 52. Those 2 numbers illuminated the faces of the observers, some nervous, others simply excited. The room and the screen suddenly erupted in lights, the 2 people inside flinching slightly. One was a teenager, thin and gangly, dark brown hair messy and unkempt as his bleached green eyes gazed out from hollow sockets. The number on his uniform read 76, but was soaked in blood, the substance having dried into the fabric like rust. The other figure stood in the center of the room, her jet black hair draping down like mangled tendrils covering the right side of her face. A single, pale yellow eye gazed forward, seeming to glow with the jagged hair surrounding it. She was incredibly short, her uniform baggy with sleeves flopping down past her hands. She looked no more than 13 years old. As she turned to 76, her mouth went from a toothy grin to one of slight confusion.
A dude?
She exclaimed, pushing her hair to one side.
That's kind of freaky.
I could technically be a really manly girl. He smirked, shrugging, dark green eyes slowly scanning the space. 52 laughed, again brushing her hair aside, an utterly useless action as it always simply fell back in front of her eyes. In the viewing room, standing in the back, O2 sighed, arms folded indifferently as she tried to seem nonchalant.
Why 8?
She hissed.
There's nothing to see here. People are gonna think you're one of...
Her voice lowered.
They're going to think you're one of the psychopathic subjects that enjoys watching these chances.
8 stood in front of her, face nearly pressed to the screen as she squirmed in excitement, her pink eyes scuttled with ravenous curiosity, skin hot and flushed.
I do like watching the chances.
She gleefully smiled in return.
I've watched every single one I can. It's so interesting. Wouldn't you agree?
Her nails screeched across the glass as her smile began to fill with saliva and her face flushed in excitement.
There is so much to learn.
Mari stood across the room from both of them, blood halo floating softly as her hands curled in front of her. Her gray eyes scuttled, watching the two of them carefully. O2 narrowed her eyes.
I think you're insensitive and sociopathic. I'm here because I promised 76. Not because I like to watch people kill each other.
People? Hardly.
8 delightedly cooed with her lips.
More like the devil himself, with the audacity to call his demons gods.
On screen, in the room, the two figures still stood facing each other. Hey, sorry. John grinned, reaching into his pocket and pulling out a small black cartridge. But I'm kinda at a loss for weapons here, being useless and all, so I'm gonna have to shock you to death. Hope that's cool. I guess there's not a whole lot of rules in these chances, so I assume it is. A violent burst of energy split from the device as a hideous bolt of lightning arced between two prongs. 52's eyes went wide briefly, before narrowing in condescending amusement.
One of the guards' tasers?
She smirked, blowing the hair from her face with a puff of air.
Immune to distortions, sure. But you're gonna have to get awfully close for that, don't you think?
John shrugged again, clicking the device off and tossing it to his other hand. Closer than you'd like me to, I guess, he mused. 52 laughed, running her right hand through her hair and looking at the wrist of her other arm, turning it slowly.
You're interesting.
She smiled, blood slowly dripping from her mouth as her spine splintered like a toothpick, torso shifting with gruesome cracking. John patiently waited, fumbling with the taser absent-mindedly as he breathed slowly. 52's golden eyes narrowed in a wild smile, John's calm demeanor slipping slightly as her black hair blotted out her retinas, leaving only teeth to slash forwards as her arms snapped like twigs, bones rupturing from the palms of her hands. She thrashed her wrists down, one final snap resounding through the space as horrific bone scythes erupted from the shredded palms of her mangled hands, scraping along the ground as she twirled her broken body to stand upright. Cool. John smirked haphazardly. Silence washed over the room for a bit, before John adjusted himself and glanced up to the cameras. Hey, Dahmer. He finally spoke, again flashing a forced smile across his face. Been a while, huh? You as excited as I am? You gonna call this or what? I heard you take great pride in being present for every chance. Giving the countdown, as it were. All was hushed for a bit, before the ceiling suddenly popped with an electronic ping.
Yes!
Dahmer's voice shrieked through the loudspeaker, voice so shrill it seemed as if her lips were pressed to the microphone in elation.
I don't play favorites, but you're quite feat of science, 76. You represent—
1, John hissed, a distortion erupting from his pointed finger and shattering one of the loudspeakers to shreds. The room fell dead silent, 52 stepping back slightly. Demand number 1, John continued. If I win, you call me by my name, and you include the names of every single subject alongside their number in the roster from now on. 105 erupted into view, piecing together the loudspeaker, but John didn't stop. That's my only demand for this chance, he continued. I'll have more demands later, but that will do for now. Dahmer's laughter just split through the speaker. Hysterical, she practically ate the microphone.
I think the special treatment is going to your head. Demand denied, 76. You're just another toy. You will not win this anyway. That is not the point of this. Do not think I owe you anything.
Oh, I know, John retaliated, dropping his hand. I don't expect you to do anything for free. I'm offering a trade. Silence over the speaker. If I win, John continued, you accept my demand and carry it out exactly as prescribed. His head again lifted. And in exchange, I will accept the same penalty test you assigned 52. 52's face flushed pale, hands stopping mid-stroke as she tried to brush her hair away. I don't know the purpose of these chances yet, John continued, but you seem to have restrained yourself by only allowing the losers to be tested on. I will accept your test willingly. Obviously, you'd have 52 as well. You have nothing to lose. If 52 wins, as everyone seems so certain, everything will simply continue as it always does. Me receiving the penalty test and 52 carrying on. If, however, by some miracle I can pull this off, you don't lose anything, you just gain another test subject. What do you say? Play a game with me, Dahmer. Let's see where it takes us. Laughter split out from the speaker like thunder, Dahmer's cackles laced with sheer amusement.
I knew you were the right choice,
she cried, shriek cutting through the speaker as her fingernails carved across her desk.
I agree, that's more fun, John. A game it is. Don't expect me to play nice, though.
Oh, wouldn't be a game otherwise. John smirked, before his eyes narrowed into slits, and he continued. One more thing, though. Did you, or did you not, have 104 kill Callie? Silence over the radio.
Callie? I'm not sure who you were referring to.
John clenched, fist balling. Deny it, then. He hissed, tiles by his feet squirming slightly. You don't even remember her name. I suppose my end demand will be your life then, but for now, just the names of every subject on the roster in exchange for my life. Do I have your word?
You got it, John. I accept your terms. I don't believe you'll make it so far as to satisfy that end demand, but I'm going to play this game to the bitter end. I expect you'll at least give me a good fight. Don't let me down now.
John just shrugged, meeting 52's wide eyes and grinning. Sorry, he nodded to her as she stood hunched over with ghastly scythes draping to the ground. You look positively horrifying, by the way, 52. Good work. The girl gnashed her teeth.
Cameras rolling. Data analysis unit green light. 76 and 52? Welcome to a chance to prove yourselves. Your chance begins in 3,
John maintained his casual stance, not even turning the taser on as 52 continued staring onwards in disbelief.
2.
Trying to recollect her focus, 52 shook her head, her hair obscuring half of her face as she softly dragged her scythes along the floor.
1.
John slowly dusted off his pants before sinking to the floor, folding his legs and sitting.
Begin!
52 faltered, clearly meaning to have rushed him but simply staggering forwards awkwardly before stopping. Sheer confusion splintered across her face at the fact that he simply sat crisscrossed on the floor, folding his hands across his lap as he smiled at her. He slowly took his shoes and socks off, tossing them aside and whistling. 52's face flashed between several different emotions, rage, confusion, and impatience, unsure of which to settle on. Finally, she simply chuckled, her heels digging into the tiles which warped around her, her teeth sharpening as she grinned out.
Sorry, 76. You're insane. You know that? You can enjoy that penalty test by yourself.
Her legs locked in a sprint, vaporized tiles splintering out behind her as her hands spread out like meat mincers, bone marrow crawling with distortions. She closed the gap between them in less than a second, wide smile erupting into laughter as she slashed a scythe backwards before arcing the weapon at his neck. John sighed, slowly flicking on the taser and casually tossing it forwards. 52's eyes widened, her momentum far too great as her distortion failed to knock the lazily rotating taser away from her path. Her run devolved to a tumble instantly, half a profanity escaping her mouth before her skull smashed against the ground, tiny limbs splaying out like squashed spider legs. John remained seated, watching 52's form tumble past him, flailing scythe hacking inches from his skull. 52 staggered to all fours instantly, golden eye narrowed in rage, her left lid cemented closed as muscle spasms racked her body.
You...
She staggered unsteadily, seeing him calmly grab the taser from the ground and smile softly. He shrugged in response, slowly standing upright. 52's teeth gnashed, rage boiling the floor around her as she rose to shaking feet. John held the taser out towards her, clicking it on and leaving the electricity to crackle violently with blinding light. 52 flinched, her earlier assurance turning to hesitance as a grin split across John's face. That's when he shuffled slightly. Mistake. His limb hit the floor before he could blink, 52's scythe arcing with blinding speed the moment his arm came into range. Blood gushed from the stump as John's calm face drained of color, his eyes having no time to panic before 52 lurched forwards, slashing scythe, crushing his ribs as the weapon shattered his heart, splitting out the other side of his body. 8's face widened in elation, her hands pressing against the screen as O2 flinched in horror. Mari stared indifferently. John's mouth fell open, hot blood spilling from his lips as he staggered, nothing coming from panicked breaths as his lungs deflated.
You cocky bastard!
52 hissed, eyes still twitching as her grin reappeared and blood speckled her face.
To think, you even had me going for a second.
His blood painted her body as her other scythe arced back, aimed at his neck. Boop! John cutely poked her head with his remaining limb, pressing a single finger against her skull. 52 blinked slowly. John's smirk flashed back into view instantly. 52's eyes flicked down, widening in panic before John's bare foot stepped on the taser. She wrenched him to the ground, dropping and falling backwards as her muscles again locked up, scythe stabbing into the ground just to keep her kneeling as John rolled like a broken doll. Both injured forms slowly staggered back to their feet after some time, blood still dripping from John's mouth as his organs slowly wound back together. 52 was nearly unable to move her legs as she kicked his severed hand holding the taser across the room, teeth sharpening against each other. A lot of energy in that thing. John laughed, clutching at his chest but grinning. Jesus, that sucked, huh?
We're done here!
52 gnashed in rage, exploding outwards as a tendril of flesh wound out from her back. 52, John spoke, putting his hand behind his back. You're not gonna... He was cut off as a tendril stabbed forwards, red streak of flesh and bone arcing at his head. Jesus! John sighed, the tendril missing by several feet as he stepped aside. I'm trying to 52 stabbed again, golden eyes sparking with rage as he again effortlessly pivoted, the tendril missing by miles.
How the fuck? Stand still!
52 screamed, another tendril erupting out from her back as she slashed both at his heart. John obliged, bowing his head, smirking as the two tendrils raced past him anyway. 52's irises exploded in fury, disbelief carving through the faces of the observers.
Impossible!
52 screamed, eyes constricting like a snake as John stood positively frozen. He was clearly deflecting her tendrils with light distortions.
That's not... possible.
O2 stammered, eyes widening as she took a step closer to the TV screen.
Impossible! Impossible! Impossible!
52 shrieked, teeth drawing blood from her own lips as she hacked faster and faster, each slash missing more than the last as John stood motionless. Maybe for you. He sneered with sharp teeth, face obscured by shadow. But who could blame you? Just a lowly 5th class. 52's body exploded in blood, her form tearing forwards again as she reconstructed her scythes and lunged at him. John's gruesome smile fractured across his face, deranged laugh splitting outwards before he calmly rotated on his heels and stabbed his hand forward. 52 stopped cold, eyes wide with horror as her body went rigid, bones nearly snapping with the force of her sudden stop. The taser crackled loudly, rammed far into her chest by John's supposedly severed hand, the limbs still very much intact. She gagged up blood.
How?
John just softly counted to 6, before stepping back slowly, breathing heavy as he shrugged and let her carcass drop to the floor with a thud. That would ruin the secret, eh? He mused, leaving the taser on as he dropped it on top of her crumpled body. The continuous energy coursed through her paralyzed limbs, smoke beginning to rise from her smoldering form, stagnant eyes going from gold to charred black as her hair curled in the heat. John went from false confidence to seriousness as his smirk was wiped from his face, sickly green eyes narrowing. Everything went dead quiet, the only sound the soft hum of the fluorescent lights as smoke continued to clamber into the air. Oh, he finally spoke up. And if you happen upon it, Dahmer, I could also use an anatomy textbook. The screen in the viewing room simply twitched with a light static-filled glitch, 52's number disappearing.
That's not... That's... impossible.
O2 mumbled softly, wide eyes vibrating as she stared at John.
What the actual...
8 shrieked in delight.
Did you see that, O2? I don't know how he cheated like that, but... What the hell? Tell me that didn't just happen.
Couldn't have.
O2 murmured to herself, eyes not leaving John as he kicked the taser off of 52 and began hoisting her tiny body upwards.
There are no rules. Can't cheat in something like this. What he did was physically impossible. Deflected her tendrils as well as reclaimed the distortion immune. Taser from halfway across the room.
8 nodded hastily in agreement, saliva dripping from her mouth as she squirmed in excitement. Mari just slowly shuffled out of the room, acting like some kind of velociraptor as her hands clawed in front of her and her face smiled brightly.
748!
O2 shrieked, halting her mid-stride. Mari's big eyes turned to O2, Halo shuddering as her smile turned to confusion. She quickly fished for her pen, but O2 stopped her, sighing and shaking her head.
Never mind.
She flushed.
I'm sorry.
I did not tell him. Mari wrote on her clipboard, holding it up and grinning a warm smile. O2 erupted forwards, hands slapping down the piece of paper before tearing it out from the clipboard in panic. Her face frowned, hand clenching the crumpled paper as it burst into flames.
Didn't tell him?
8 stammered, coils jangling as she turned around and walked towards Mari.
Just what is O2 hiding from us?
Nothing.
O2 hissed, her hand glowing white-hot as the paper vaporized.
What do you even care, 8? Got my own chance in 30 minutes, just leave me alone.
No, I agreed to John's deal.
8 grinned, pressing forwards.
We're friends now, like it or not. We're in this together now.
I didn't agree to anything.
O2 hissed.
You can be naive and ridiculous if you want, but I'm about to go kill one of your friends. And if I don't, they won't hesitate to kill me. Nothing has changed, and it's not going to. This is all just a fun little game to Dahmer. Even if John never did get a lead, she could just back out and have him killed with one word. You're an idiot. Everyone is an idiot. One fucking person shows up, says some shit, and you suddenly think everything is gonna be okay? Grow up, 8. Don't think this changes anything.
The ashes fell to O2's feet as she turned away, leaving 8 stunned.
She's gonna die in the penalty test anyway. You're all gonna fucking die.
8 blinked slowly, adjusting her weight, unsure of what to do. Mari slowly walked beside her, softly meeting her eyes and smiling delicately as she lifted up her notepad. Scared, it read.
O2 scared? Now that's a frightening thought.